So, this one's going to be about books, and I'm just seeing that I'm using the wrong thing. So this one's going to be about books and or just things that somebody learned through books, because I've just seen a pretty nice article, or I have just found a pretty nice article just on this topic. And there are also some suggestions for books. And since a lot of people really read books up to this point, we are talking about that. But more after the intro, as every day. And I am in need of my blankets. Therefore, let's just grab them and work with them. And yeah, with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. I'm pumped for this episode. I really am. Since the other episode that I've been recording today has been really good. And this just really motivates me then to also record another one and another one and another one. And also because I want to be just really productive today. I've been able to do just quite something up to this point. I'm quite happy with my productivity today and the amount of shit that I've been able to get done today. That's amazing. But yeah, if you actually want to listen to this podcast actually, because I'm always kind of assuming, I don't actually know why, that people are just watching this as the YouTube video. But if you do want to listen to it, and if you are on YouTube, please consider going down into the description, because there should be a link to the podcast, and this link should also lead you to a page where you can also choose where to listen the podcast on, which might be Apple Podcast, which might be Spotify, which might be Stitcher, which might be Castbox, which might be any other platform that you're normally listening to podcasts on. It should also be there. So please check out the link in the description to check the podcast out and or the audio version of the podcast. But if you, on the other hand, so basically vice versa, if you're on the podcast, so if you're just on Apple Podcast and you're thinking like, well, watching the YouTube video might actually be a pretty cool thing, then please also consider going down into the show notes and checking out the link to the YouTube channel. But yeah, as I've been talking about it before, this article from the, I think it's HuffPost. I think it's HuffPost.com, but I'm not quite sure about that. And it is actually an article from 18 hours ago, which is pretty cool. So it's a pretty recent one. Maybe there are going to be some updates, or it was updated 18 hours ago. I'm sorry. It's not been published, but it has been updated. It's actually a month old quite, because it was published on the 11th of I think it's October, isn't it? I'm always just really bad at that. No, it isn't. Like it's from yesterday. I'm sorry. It's always the problem when you're having another way to show date in your country than just a lot of other countries are having. Because I wouldn't write 11/8/2019. I would write 8/11/2019. So the 8th of November 2019. But yeah, this is what it is. So 3 life lessons I learned through books this year. I'm a lifelong reader, but this year opened my eyes to some key advice. And this article is by ByJolie A. Doggett, I guess. I hope I've pronounced that somehow correctly. I'm always going to have troubles with that, Might be just because I'm not a native speaker, just because I'm not an American or English or Australian or New Zealandan native speaker or something. I don't fucking But yeah, I think the first paragraphs are going to be some sort of a introduction. So I'm going to read the first one, I guess. So the world of literature is one that can take you far beyond your physical limitations. It is the key to freedom in this world. Author, actor, and activist LeVar Burton. Is it actually LeVar Burton? Is it from the brand Burton? If you know the brand, told Forbes during a 2019 interview. Burton will be familiar to most people as the former host of the beloved educational kid show Reading Rainbow, where Burton and read children's books and shared the moral and practical lessons within. Anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s should also be familiar with the show's iconic theme song, Butterfly in the Sky, I can go twice as high, I can go anywhere, and I can do anything, and so on and so on and so on. So let's actually go ahead to the life lessons she learned. The first one is good books make good readers. And this immediately remembered me on something that Seth Godin once again said, which is that you need good clients to do good work. And it has just in the first place or the first time I've actually heard it, it's been something like two-sided. It's been a two-sided sword for me just because, or is it two-edged sword? I don't know. I don't know these things, But what I'm willing to refer to is that if you say, okay, I'm only willing to have good clients and whatnot, like, yeah, we have to progress. In the first place, there's not going to be any good clients for you, probably, unless you're really talented and unless people are actually searching for you. But in the first place, or in the first few years of your business and you doing your freelance stuff and whatever it might be, I guess your first clients are just going to be clients. Unless you're just doing the free work, which is also a pretty great way, as Paula Scher, one of the most famous and most amazing graphic designers on this planet, has pointed out. Because she, at this point in time, even though she's so successful, she still tends to do free work. Just because then she's able to basically do what she wants to do, which is kind of relatively interesting, and which also Christo, that was interviewing Paul Scher, said that it is somehow interesting that even though she's so fucking famous and this show so fucking good, that she still has to do those free works to just do what she wants to do. And I was thinking yeah, it is fucked up and it is somehow confusing that it is still the case for her. But I think, it's the exact same thing as if I would be just actually working with a client. The clients have some sort of just an imagination. They have something in their brain, a picture, whatever it is all about, maybe their logo, let's say. They just have something in mind and they want to have that. You can say okay, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if I would be doing it like you want me to do that. And this is something people will understand, and this is also something that the clients will understand. But most often, if it is about some, especially design is very subjective. And if they say, okay, they like this, and you kind of feel well, this is complete bullshit, and you just hate it, you still have to do it because they like it. You're just a service business, or it is just a service business, quite. And of course, they should actually be listening to you since you are the professional, since you have the experience, since you know what you're talking about. But yeah, and this is also one of the reasons why it is good to have better clients, better work through better clients. And just because they will understand you, they will listen to you. They will listen to what you're saying. They will listen to the advice that you're giving them and the advice on the choices they should be making and all those things. So if you're having good clients, they are basically going to listen and you're able to do the work you're proud of in the end, which is not always going to be the case. Of course, there are going to be some projects you feel what I've done wasn't that great actually, even though just your clients liked it and were really amazed by it, but you quite don't like it. It is what it is. And I think it is something that will happen to quite everyone, no matter what business you're in or no matter what business you're having, but especially in client-based businesses, I guess, in terms of service businesses, I at least think. But let's actually see what she is actually referring to in this small little paragraph. I think I'm going to read it, maybe not the whole one. So as always, the link to this great article is going to be down in the description, also down in the show notes. So if you want to check it out on your own, maybe just because I'm too slow or various other things, then please check out the link in the description and or in the show notes if you're on the podcast. So this year might have been my best reading year of my adult life. Part of the reason I think is So part of the reason I think it was so good is less about the books that I read and more about the books that I didn't read. This is the first year in my memory where I actively DNF'd or did not finish books on purpose, which is basically something that Seth Godin is always doing, by the way, but I'm going to talk about it afterwards a little bit more. And honestly, by not wasting my time with novels I wasn't loving, I gave myself the space to discover authors and genres that I really enjoy. I used to look at not completing books as a failure, probably because not completing a book would definitely constitute as a failing grade during my school years. I used to force myself to read things that were boring, unrelatable, and sometimes offensive, and thus force myself into reading slumps where I was no longer interested in the practice altogether. This happens to a lot of young people who fall out of love with reading during their early school years. Perhaps having the choice to stop reading is the key to keeping a love of reading alive and giving our youth access to a fulfilling life. Giving kids more choice, diversity, and freedom in their reading may encourage them to become adults who love books all life long. And I have to say, as I've been initially also saying, Seth Godin is doing this all the time. But I think it's not necessarily only about just, okay, this book is good and I like it, and this book is bad and I don't like it, but it is also about information, And I think it is especially applicable or applicable when you're reading non-fictional books, books about information, books about merely just gaining knowledge, basically, I would say, And what Seth Godin is doing is that he reads a book unless he just gets the whole point of the book, and then he stops reading it, because then there's no point or no reason why you would actually be reading it after you've just understood what the whole plot is. Why would you actually be listening and or reading something if you understand the whole concept? It would only be a waste of time, unless you kind of feel like, okay, you haven't gotten it completely, like just a little bit, but not completely. Then of course it does make sense to read the whole book or go through the whole audiobook, or just, listen to the whole seminar or keynote or whatever. But if you kind of indeed noticed and or recognize that you just completely get the whole concept, then there's no point in sticking around any longer, but actually moving out of the room or moving out into the world and just doing your shit that you have just learned. I think it's actually a pretty good thing. Still, I'm also somehow struggling with not reading something or not finishing something, because I kind of feel like, finishing it, because I'm always a little bit like thinking that even though in the first place a book, or in the first few paragraphs or whatnot, a book might not be that good, who says that it is going to be the case for the whole book? Of course it is some risk if I'm just then reading the whole book and then kind of feel like, well, it's been a lot of wasted time. But it also, on the other hand, is a lot of risk when I'm feeling like, well, I understand everything or I don't like the book, and thus just stop reading it, even though I do not really know if the book is going to be good or bad, or if there's going to be something new just in the end of the whole book, because who knows? Maybe a way to kind of get around that is to then pick certain parts from later parts of the book and then read them and then trying to understand them. And if you understand them, then everything is okay. And or to see if there's something new that you could just be learning and or seeing and or whatever. The second thing this person learned: we need diverse books. I wouldn't say that this is actually an English sentence, but I'm not a native and my English is definitely not the best. I think it is good. I have to say it is good, but I could definitely just also progress. This year I also challenged myself to only read books written by women of color. I did read a few outliers, but still, this May has also been my most diverse reading year yet. The book industry's diversity problem is no secret, and while things are getting better, there are still large gaps in representation for minority communities in both authors and characters. And that's truly a tragedy considering the wealth of knowledge diverse authors have to offer the genres. My reading of authors of color like Tahiri Mavi, Bali Kau Haswal, I don't know, I'm just probably pronouncing everything wrong, Elizabeth Acevedo, and Renee Watson, or Renee Korosby, I don't know, gave me language to speak up for myself and my existence as a woman of color that I just didn't have in my youth and that I will carry with me throughout my life. Reading diversively does this. It not only shows readers new perspectives on cultures they may not know very much, but it can also show readers unique ways to navigate their own culture and also life. I have to say, I think it is about diverse genres, isn't it? So not only just reading self-help books, but also just reading fictional works. And I have to say this is something that I would say a lot of people should be doing, since I've often read that self-help books are good. I like them. And I in general also like just non-fictional works in general. I in my life have also been reading some fictional work and I've also enjoyed them. Yes, I have. Have I too? I've been reading a bunch of English fictional books. One of them was 1984 by George Orwell, and it is a really cool book. And I would suggest anybody to read it. Not because of the whole story or of the whole plot, but I think it's just a good book. Not just because of the meaning. This is what I wanted to say. Not because of the meaning that, okay, we are all surveilled by whomever, but just because it's a cool story and it is a good book, and I think it's well written, if I can tell that, because I'm not such an avid reader to say that. But I've just read a bunch of non-fictional works like How to Win Friends and Influence People, then Napoleon Hill's, I don't know what it was called, Get Rich Quick or something. No, just joking. But yeah, I read a bunch of non-fictional works, and I have to say that a lot of people I think it's actually been Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, but I'm not quite sure about Warren Buffett. But Bill Gates definitely said that he learns more by reading fictional works than he's learning by reading non-fictional works. And I have to say, like, on one hand, I can totally understand that. Like, it is a story, it is a way to just present morals and actually teach certain lessons. It is actually a pretty good way to do so. And maybe this is also one thing that a lot of more artists and a lot of more people could be doing. Like, actually, those authors that are normally writing non-fictional books, that they just then suddenly write a fictional book, since they are actually able to explain things through the fiction, through the narrative, through the story, which might even be better for the people that are reading it. But, just a thought of mine. So people said that reading non-fictional things help them way more than, help them better or more than reading some non-fictional books. And as I said, I can understand that. But on the other hand, for some people that really just like to have the information, do not really want to go through a story and then also figure it out on themselves, basically, it might not work that well. But I'm not quite sure about it. Like, it's just gonna be, everyone has to understand themselves and also then decides what is working best for them, I guess, But the third one is love is the key to social justice. Love in general is pretty strong in my point of view, but let's see. I've never been a big fan of romance novels or a big believer in happily ever after endings. But this year I read a lot of books, both fiction and non-fiction, about love, and I learned that love is about more than gushy, steamy romance. Love is a tool and an internal power that we all possess to produce radical change in our families, our communities, and within ourselves. As Bell Hooks writes on one of my favorite reads of the year, All About Love, New Visions, a love ethic presupposes that everyone has the right to be free, to live fully and well. The choice to love is a choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. We are in the midst of a tumultuous political and social time in which we are beginning to challenge what it means to be free. And as we enter into 2020, it doesn't look like that challenge is going to get any easier. Carrying a love ethic with us is a necessary tool for survival. Books can teach us the important lessons, or the most important lessons, of what love does and doesn't look like, for romantic partners and not. In the pages of some books we can learn how to be better lover, or how to better love our communities and love each other. I truly believe books will save the world by expanding our worldview and our language. Books helps us connect with each other and connect with ourselves. Below are some of my favorite page turners of my year so far. As always, if you want to go through all of them, I'm gonna link them down in the description, or if you want to recap them once again without actually going through the whole podcast once again, then please check out the link in the description and or in the show notes. And there's actually a video from Bill Gates. Billionaire Bill whines about Warren's wealth tax. They are friends. There's not going to be any whining about anything there, I guess. But yeah, so the first page turner is All About Love, New Visions. Pretty cool, by Bell Hooks. The incomparable Bell Hooks wrote 13 essays all about love, love between partners, love within family, love within ourselves or yourself, and love within our community or your community. According to Hooks, love is the most effective tool of any ethical justice movements. It's definitely my favorite non-fiction read of the year. So check it out if you want to check it out, or don't check it out if you feel like, well, you know enough about love. But I guess, and this is something that Tim Ferriss, as I've been listening to the Tim Ferriss show, has said as well, that he didn't really use the word love really often back in the days, and now he's using it quite a lot. And I have to say, this is actually something that maybe a lot of more people should be doing, since, love is a strong word. It really is a strong word, but we can all use it, and maybe we should all use it, because it is so strong. And we all know that it is strong. And if you're telling somebody that you love him or you love her, then it means something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about romantic partners or something, but it could just also be about a friend, or towards a friend, to a friend, or towards your family, to your mom, to your dad, to whomever. But I guess it is actually something that people like to hear, I guess. That you love them, love him, love her, whatever. But yeah. The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. Roya and Baman are just teenagers in Tehran, when they meet one day in a stationery shop and begin a worldwide romance against the wishes of Baham's cruel mother. This beautifully written novel tells the story of star-crossed lovers amidst the political upheaval of 1950s Iran who proved that true love conquers all. Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany Jackson. At the start of this book, Monday Charles doesn't show up for the first day of school. What follows is an emotional tale of a girl searching for her best friend and the adults who don't seem to care that she's missing. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Normally, I don't believe the hype of the most popular, most must-read books, but this novel delivered and then some. Okay. As the title reveals, cinema siren Evelyn Hugo has had seven husbands throughout her career, and each has taught her a valuable lesson about love, life, and herself. It is a funny, heartwarming, and at times heartbreaking historical fiction that shows that the love you have for yourself is the most important love of them all. And the last one is Still Me by Jojo Moyes, the third book in the controversial Me Before You trilogy or trilogy surprised me by how heartwarming and inspirational it was. This final book follows Louisa as she relocates from her small town in England to big, loud and beautiful New York City and learns to navigate the fast-paced demands of metropolitan life. It is a story about new beginnings, tough lessons, and finding the joy in the little moments. And this is just what I've been referring to. Like, you can just really learn a lot by reading fiction. This is a fictional book, and it just really tells great stories, I guess, since it is about tough lessons and finding the joy in the little moments, which is something that's particularly important. So yeah, I kind of believe that both ways, so both fictional and non-fictional books are pretty important and pretty cool and pretty awesome to read. I've been also thinking about just starting to read once again, just because I've dropped that habit a bit ago. But I'm reading a lot, as you've just seen. I'm primarily reading when I'm on a podcast. Outside of the podcast, I'm also reading quite something, but it is more like just, on this day I'm reading something, and just the next day I'm not going to read something and whatsoever. But yeah. But I also wouldn't necessarily say that books are the only way you consume information, because there's also audiobooks, there's also podcasts, there's also interviews, there's also so many different things that we can consume. Of course, every single medium has its upsides and also downsides, but I wouldn't say that books are the only good one and the only just, usable one and whatnot. So, really something to think about at my point of view. But yeah, I'm gonna see you the next time, I at least hope. Therefore, I'm gonna wish you the best health, of happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself how you're gonna be remembered, which basically means your legacy, since we all can just be nice people and then also being remembered as nice people. But yeah, 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving something that really pissed them off. Happened quite often, and there's probably also going to be something that really pisses you off as well. Whether it be something major or something minor, there maybe is something that hasn't been solved up to this point. So solve it and you're going to have a good business, maybe. Unless it is something that's really minor, then who knows. But yeah, thanks a lot for listening. I really appreciate that. I really am grateful for every single click and every single just subscription or subscriber that I'm getting and whatnot. It's so amazing, those little victories after so many hours of work, and I appreciate it. So thanks you for staying with me. And if you want to just stay along with me once again, please subscribe, or please consider to subscribe to the podcast and also to the YouTube channel. It just would really mean the world to me. And I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. So I wish you a good day. Really have a nice day.